Hey everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive. You know we all love to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff, and today we're going deep on something that's got a lot of you thinking and asking questions. The future of church. We're talking specifically about these simple house churches, what they are, and what they could mean for, how we experience and live out our faith. We've got a fantastic article by Milton to guide us. He's been planting these simple churches around the world for 15 years.
Yeah, he really has.
So he's got a lot of insights to share.
Definitely.
This is going to be eye-opening, folks.
For sure.
Get ready to maybe even encounter some questions you haven't even thought to ask yet.
It's really fascinating stuff. And Adams doesn't hold back. He starts by painting a pretty stark picture of, the state of traditional church in the West.
Yeah, right off the bat. No sugarcoating. He's talking about declining church attendance, which, it's something we all kind of sense is happening, right?
It's the elephant in the room.
Exactly. But Adams puts some hard numbers on it.
Yeah, he does.
And it's kind of alarming when you see the stats. He says it's basically mirroring what's already happened in Europe.
Oh, yeah. Europe's been ahead of the curve on this one.
Yeah, for sure. Church attendance over there is way down, like for decades now.
Right.
And he points out that in 2020, only 25% of Americans identified as practicing Christians. 25%.
Wow.
And so,
That's a huge drop, almost half the number from just 2 decades earlier.
yeah, that's like church attendance is basically getting cut in half every 20 years. That's massive.
Yeah.
So is he saying this is all because of what about these mega churches everyone's talking about? Are they to blame? Or is there something deeper going on here?
That's a great question. And Adams actually connects this decline to a historical shift. You won't believe this. It goes all the way back to Constantine.
Or Constantine.
Yeah, the Roman emperor.
Okay, so remind me.
He's the one who made Christianity the official religion of the empire.
Oh, right. Back in the day.
Yeah.
So how does that tie into, church attendance today? Seems like a pretty big jump.
It does, doesn't it? But Adams makes a compelling argument. He says that Constantine's influence essentially led to this settled pastor model. That's what he calls it.
Okay, the settled pastor model. So what does that even mean?
Well, it created this professional clergy class where you had, designated pastors leading the church. And the everyday folks, the laity, they became less active in ministry.
So instead of everyone pitching in and sharing the responsibility for ministry, it became more about showing up for a service led by a professional.
Exactly. And this model has continued for centuries, shaping both Catholic and Protestant churches.
Wow, so this settled pastor model, as Adams calls it, could actually be like a root cause for people feeling less engaged with church, less responsible for ministry, just showing up for a service and then going home. I can see how that could make people feel disconnected. But hold on. If that's the problem, what's the solution?
Well, that's where the simple house church model comes in. And Adams has some really interesting data from his network of these churches.
Okay. Tell me more about these simple churches. What makes them so different from, traditional churches?
Well, as the name suggests, they strip away a lot of the formality and structure and focus on gathering in homes.
So it's like taking church back to its roots. Kind of like the early Christians meeting in houses.
Exactly.
Kind of dig that.
Yeah, and Adams emphasizes that this model is attracting a lot of people who aren't drawn to traditional churches.
Really?
In fact, his data shows that 52% of the people attending these simple churches are unchurched.
52%?
Yeah.
That's huge. That's almost like starting a whole new church from scratch. So why are so many unchurched people finding this model appealing?
That's a great question. And Adams dives into several reasons. For one thing, it breaks down barriers and creates a more accessible space for those who are seeking something different.
Okay, so maybe they feel intimidated by the formality of a big church building? Or put off by the, the traditional rituals?
Yeah, exactly. Plus, there's the financial flexibility. Since there are no buildings to maintain or large staff to support, these simple churches can redirect resources toward helping people in their communities.
I see. So instead of paying for a fancy building, they're using the money to actually live out their faith by serving others.
Exactly. And this whole model is built on the idea that everyone is called to ministry, not just the pastor. Adams calls it the priesthood of all believers.
Okay, so it's not just about showing up and listening to a sermon. It's about everyone participating, sharing their gifts, and contributing to the community.
Right.
That sounds pretty empowering.
It is, but
Yeah.
It's not all sunshine and roses. Adams is honest about the challenges he's encountered in planting these churches.
Okay.
One of the biggest hurdles is the time required for effective discipleship.
I can imagine. I mean, we live in a culture that wants everything fast and easy.
Right? Instant gratification.
Exactly. Taking the time to really walk alongside someone on their spiritual journey, that takes patience and a lot of commitment.
It does. And it really goes against the grain of our culture.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking of going against the grain, Adams also talks about the challenge of multiplication, especially in individualistic Western cultures. Can you explain what he means by that?
Yeah, so even though the simple church model is all about simplicity and organic growth, just letting things happen naturally, getting people to actually divide and plant new churches is tough.
I see.
People get comfortable in their small groups, but they hesitate to branch out and start new ones.
It's almost like a paradox.
Yeah.
They love the intimacy and close-knit community, but replicating that growth is a whole other challenge.
Right. And then there's the tension Adams identifies between consumerism and genuine mission.
Uh-oh. So he's saying even when it comes to faith, we can fall into that what's in it for me mentality. Like, hey, God, I showed up. Now where's my blessing?
You got it.
Ouch.
And Adams argues that this consumerist attitude is a major obstacle for those trying to build a truly mission-driven church.
Yeah. I think a lot of listeners can probably relate to that. It's so easy to fall into that trap. But Adams doesn't stop there. He also points out some surprising things he's observed, things that might even be a little controversial.
He does. One of the most unexpected was the prevalence of male leadership in simple churches.
So even though the simple church model seems pretty egalitarian,
Yeah.
it's still mostly men taking the lead.
That's what he's seen. He speculates that it might be because the model appeals to a desire for risk-taking and ownership, things that are often associated with masculinity.
Interesting. Kind of flips the script on the traditional church hierarchy. What about the women in these churches? Are they okay with this?
That's a question Adams doesn't fully address in the article. He acknowledges it as an observation, but doesn't go deeper into, the dynamics at play.
Okay, so something for us to ponder. What else did Adams find surprising?
He noticed this trend of traditional churches trying to adopt house church terminology and even create hybrid models without really embracing the core values of the movement.
Oh, so it's like they're trying to put a Band-Aid on a much deeper issue. Like, hey, we've got small groups, we're doing house church now.
Exactly.
But it's all superficial.
Right. And Adams suggests that this can actually do more harm than good. That creates confusion and might even hinder the growth of genuine simple churches.
Like it's setting people up for disappointment.
Yeah.
Okay, so what really stuck with me was Adams's distinction between public and private spaces and how that changes our whole experience of church.
Yeah, that's key.
He argues that public spaces, like those big church buildings, tend to foster a consumer mindset. We go in expecting a performance, a service, something for us, rather than something we're a part of.
It's subtle, but it's there.
Totally.
We're more likely to ask, what am I getting out of this?
Yeah.
Rather than, how can I contribute?
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. And he contrasts this with the experience of gathering in a home, which is a non-public space.
Exactly.
In a home.
Yeah.
The emphasis shifts to hospitality.
Yeah.
Relationship. And genuine connection.
It's a different vibe.
Totally. It's like the difference between going to a restaurant and being invited to a friend's house for dinner.
Perfect analogy.
Right. There's that inherent sense of warmth and mutual sharing in someone's home.
Yeah.
That you just don't get in a formal setting.
For sure.
And this is where things get really interesting. Adams believes that shifting from public to non-public spaces is crucial for overcoming that consumerism that can hinder spiritual growth.
He's onto something.
It's about creating a space where people feel seen and valued, not just as consumers, but as contributing members of a community.
Right. It changes everything. It really does.
And this home setting, he argues, is especially good for kids.
Oh, yeah.
So instead of feeling pressured to perform or be entertained, kids in a simple church are more likely to just,
Yeah.
be themselves, feel like they belong.
Exactly. They're not bombarded with messages about what they should be buying or how they should be acting. They're just experiencing faith in a more organic, relational way.
Makes sense. In a home environment, the focus is more on connecting with people, sharing life together, rather than, putting on a show.
It's about fostering a different perspective, one that's less about what I get and more about being part of a community, a mission.
And this ties into another big theme Adams explores, the whole idea of discipleship. In a culture that often prioritizes individualism and instant gratification.
Right. He's upfront about the fact that disciple-making in Western cultures takes time, patience, a willingness to walk alongside people on their journeys, even when it gets messy.
Yeah, he's kind of challenging us to rethink our expectations of what discipleship looks like, embrace a more organic relational approach.
Absolutely. He's not advocating for some rigid program or formula. He's talking about genuine relationships, walking alongside people, sharing life together, helping each other grow.
Forget the fancy curriculum. Just be present with people, listen to them, offer support and encouragement. Sounds simple, but I bet it's harder than it seems.
It is. It requires intentionality, vulnerability, and a willingness to step outside our comfort zones. But Adams argues that it's essential for fostering authentic spiritual growth.
Hmm. And this whole idea of discipleship connects back to the concept of obedience that Adams emphasizes, especially in the context of DMMs.
Right. He's observed that in many DMMs, obedience isn't seen as this burdensome set of rules, but as a natural outpouring of love for Jesus.
Okay, so it's not about blindly following orders. It's about aligning our lives with our beliefs out of a desire to follow Jesus wholeheartedly.
Exactly. It's about living out our faith authentically, not because we have to, but because we want to. And this connects to another key aspect of DMMs, their commitment to multiplication.
So you talk about movements that are designed to spread, to expand organically through the efforts of ordinary believers.
Right. It's not about relying on a few charismatic leaders or a top-down structure. It's about empowering every believer to be a disciple maker.
So each person becomes like a little seed that's planted
Mm.
and grows into a new plant, which then produces more seeds, and so on. Kind of like a spiritual chain reaction.
Love that analogy.
And Adams acknowledges that this can be a challenge in Western cultures, where individualism is often prized over communal effort.
It's a real tension.
We tend to be pretty independent and self-reliant. Getting people to collaborate and work together towards a common goal can be tough.
It can, but Adams also sees a lot of hope, especially among younger generations.
Oh, really?
He points out that many young people are craving a sense of purpose and belonging that goes beyond themselves.
It's like they're searching for something bigger than themselves, a way to make a difference in the world and connect with others on a deeper level.
Exactly. And Adams believes that DMMs can offer a powerful pathway for fulfilling those longings.
So it's not just about changing the structure of church. It's about tapping into a deeper human need for connection, purpose, and meaning. That's pretty profound.
It is. And Adams' ideas aren't just theoretical. He's been involved in planting simple churches and supporting DMMs for over 15 years.
He's got firsthand experience with the challenges and the potential of this movement.
He does. And he's seen incredible things happen when people step out in faith and embrace this more organic disciple-making approach.
This is all very interesting, but I'm sure some listeners are wondering, what does this mean for me? Like, how can I apply these ideas to my own life and faith journey?
That's the big question, right? And Adams doesn't offer any easy answers or a one-size-fits-all approach.
So he's not giving us a step-by-step guide to starting a simple church or joining a DMM.
Not exactly. He's more interested in inviting us into a conversation, a journey of discovery. He's encouraging us to examine our assumptions, be open to new possibilities, and consider how we can be part of this evolving landscape of faith.
He's saying, hey, I've learned some things along the way, but I don't have all the answers. Let's explore this together. And that exploration might look different for everyone. For some, it might mean starting a simple church in their home. For others, it might mean finding ways to be more intentional about discipleship within their existing church.
Right.
Or maybe it's just about shifting our perspective, moving away from a consumer mindset and towards a more active, participatory approach to faith.
It's about asking ourselves, how can I be a disciple maker? How can I live out my faith in a way that's authentic and life-giving?
And maybe, just maybe, these small shifts in our thinking and our actions can contribute to a larger movement that's transforming the church as we know it.
And Adams reminds us that the church isn't a static institution, but a living, breathing organism that's constantly adapting and transforming. It always has.
So instead of fearing change, we should embrace it as an opportunity for growth and renewal.
Exactly. We can be part of something exciting and dynamic, something that's shaping the future of faith in profound ways.
It's like he's saying church is less about buildings and, structures,
Yeah.
and more about people and relationships.
Yeah, it's about people connecting with God and each other in authentic, life-giving ways, regardless of where that happens. And, speaking of structures, Adams doesn't shy away from addressing the elephant in the room. The tension between this vision of a decentralized organic movement and, the established structures of denominations.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. It seems like a lot of denominational leaders would be pretty resistant to this whole idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, institutions are often built on preserving the status quo, maintaining control, ensuring stability.
It's hard for them to let go of the reins, to trust that something good can come from a less structured, more unpredictable approach.
It is. But Adams believes there's a way forward, a path that honors both institutions and grassroots movements.
So he's not saying we need to completely abandon
No,
denominations.
not at all. He proposes a model he calls a dual operating system. He's borrowing the term from the business world.
A dual operating system.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm
yeah.
intrigued. How would that work?
So the idea is that denominations can function like, established companies,
Mhm.
providing structure, resources, a sense of continuity. But at the same time, they can create space for what he calls skunk works.
Skunk works.
Yeah.
I like that. Sounds kind of rebellious.
It kind of is. These skunk works would be like those expander teams we talked about earlier, pioneering new approaches, taking
Oh.
risks, experimenting with fresh expressions of faith.
So it's like having a little startup
Yeah.
within the larger organization, a space where new ideas can flourish without being bogged down by bureaucracy.
Exactly. And Adams believes this kind of dual system is essential for the future of the church, allowing it to adapt to a rapidly changing world and connect with people who are seeking something different.
It's a bold vision. It requires a willingness to be uncomfortable, let go of some control,
Yeah,
and just trust the process.
it does. But Adams believes the potential rewards are huge. He thinks it could lead to a more vibrant, relevant, and impactful expression of faith, one that's better equipped to reach people in the 21st century.
And what I find so compelling is that he's not just theorizing about this. He's drawing from real-world experience.
Yes.
He spent years working on the ground, planting churches, supporting missionaries, observing what actually works. He's not just talking the talk, he's walking the walk.
Yeah, and that gives his insights a lot of weight. And it's worth noting that he doesn't present this vision as like a finished product,
Yeah.
you know, a blueprint to be followed to the letter.
So it's more of an invitation to a conversation, a starting point for further exploration.
Exactly. He acknowledges that there's still a lot of unanswered questions, challenges to be faced, adjustments to be made along the way.
He's not afraid to say, hey, I don't have all the answers, but I'm passionate about exploring the possibilities.
Yeah.
And encouraging others to do the same.
And that's what makes his message so inspiring and empowering. He's challenging us to be both thoughtful and courageous, to embrace the tension between tradition and innovation.
To hold on to the core values of our faith,
Yeah.
while being willing to let go of structures that might not be serving us anymore.
Exactly. He's calling us to be open to the movement of the Holy Spirit, to be surprised by what God is doing in unexpected places and through unexpected people.
And ultimately, he's inviting us to join the adventure, to be part of something bigger than ourselves, something that's shaping the future of faith in amazing ways.
It's powerful stuff.
Well, deep divers, we've only just scratched the surface of this topic. Milton Adams' article is full of insights and questions that we encourage you to explore further.
Yeah, definitely check it out.
You can find links to his work on our website. And we'd love to hear your thoughts. What resonated with you from this deep dive? What are your hopes and fears about the future of faith? What role do you see yourself playing in this evolving landscape?
Yeah, let us know.
We believe that the church in all its different forms has a vital role to play in the world today. And we're excited to continue this conversation with you as we seek to understand and embody what it means to be followers of Jesus in the 21st century.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.